Ever find yourself waiting endlessly at a big box pharmacy, feeling like just another number? At Tablet Pharmacy, they provide the personalized service you deserve. They offer free delivery and blister packaging options to make managing your medications easier than ever. Check their competitive prices online at tabletpharmacy.ca.
Hello, friends. I am Cindy Thompson, and this is a Resilience Project. This is a space where stories are shared and possibilities are discovered. I invite you to partner with me in cultivating resilience among humans, one conversation at a time. I am so privileged to be in conversation with Kerri Cryderman for this episode. Kerri and I met while in the executive coaching program at Royal Roads University, and although we did not get a chance to know one another very much in the initial residency, working with one another in reciprocal coaching after the program was completed gave us a unique invitation into one another's lives. Kerri resides in Saskatchewan and lives out her values as a healthcare professional in support services and is a leader in her faith community with the Salvation Army. In November 2019, Kerri unexpectedly lost her sister, who was her best friend and roommate. What started out as a routine evening ended in her sister's unexplained death at their home. Less than 3 months after returning to work, COVID-19 escalated and Kerri was asked to work from home, the very place where her sister passed. As an executive leader in healthcare, she was leaned on to be a pillar of strength during this time while trying to heal personally. She has been spending the last year and a half navigating her grief, completing a certificate in executive coaching at Royal Roads, supporting the pandemic response through work. I have a great deal of respect for Kerri's presence here in this episode, as she is talking about a very significant and vulnerable time in her life. Kerri's story will speak to most individuals who are navigating this season of grief following loss. Kerri, I am so pleased that you would spend a bit of time with me on a Friday afternoon and to be able to share your story of grief, of healing, loss, and to help our listeners understand how you have come along on your journey.
Well, it's wonderful to be here. Where do you want me to start?
I just like to honor, first of all, that you really were very instrumental in helping me get this podcast going, because you and I were meeting last year during 2020 as we were doing some reciprocal coaching in our program. And I have found your guidance and your coaching to be very helpful. I want to say that you walked me through a big part of getting this podcast going. So I just want to get that out there first.
Well, thank you. It's been wonderful to see your journey and just be a small part of it and to encourage you as you walked along it and to be a cheerleader from afar for sure.
Well, it was awesome coaching because it helped me have the courage to take those next steps. So thank you. 2020 was a big year, but let's go back because it was maybe in late 2019 that you and your sister were living together. Tell us about your sister.
Oh, gee. She was a presence to behold. Like, I don't think if you met her, you would ever forget her. She had some really interesting, I think my cousin put it the best. She was very unique and she did everything grandiose. So when she sneezed, it sounded like Donald Duck. It was very loud and you knew she was around. When she giggled or laughed, it was very loud and boisterous. The way she loved people was very big and grand, and yet also very subtle. And she was the kind of person that would do the small things for you behind the scenes that no one would notice. I guess the way I would describe it is that she really cared about people and had a deep compassion for others. She would never really be the center of attention. She would always kind of be behind. I wouldn't want to say lurk. I was going to say lurk behind, but she would often be behind the scenes. But she was so very kind and caring. And she was my sister, so she was also a little bit of annoying at times. She really wanted the best for others. And I think that was the greatest thing that I would say about her and her personality and who she was.
And so, Kerri, she was your older sister?
No, she's my younger sister, but I would tell you she bossed me around like I was the younger one.
I see. As sisters might.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me how old she was when she passed.
I think she was 37 years old. And so she was almost 5 years younger than me.
So Candace and you were living together.
So we had been living together for quite a long time, actually. So my sister actually never lived anywhere else other than our family home.
Oh.
Neither of us got married. And so I had left for a while to live in the United States and kind of came back. And so we were actually living in our family home together. So we had been there, I don't know how long. Too many years, probably. Yeah, too many years to count, probably.
So leading up to that day that she passed away, tell me, what you were seeing, what you were hearing that would have indicated her health was not good.
In 2015, my sister had a detached retina, actually, and she ended up with eye surgery. And it didn't take. So she ended up having to have 3 eye surgeries for this retina to become attached again. And after that, she developed pretty severe migraines and was really struggling quite a bit with these migraines and had gone to see a neurologist, done a lot of different treatments. So she would often get these migraines that would put her out for potentially 2 or 3 days. They would make her dizzy. She would try to go to work. Lights bothered her. So she had been struggling on and off since about 2015 with that. So about 3 weeks prior to her passing away, we were on a weekend with some girlfriends, and she was struggling with breathing. And so from time to time, she would get bronchitis and then need like an inhaler to help open up her airways and stuff. And so she was struggling with breathing, and our friends indicated to her that maybe she should go get it checked out. And so she did. She went to our family doctor. They checked her and they said, it's probably just a bronchitis again, and gave her an inhaler and sent her on her way. The night that she passed away, we were just having a really nice evening. I was going with a friend on a family vacation. We were going to go away. So it was the night before that, and I was getting myself all organized. And she and I had decided to get some pizza and watch TV together, and specifically Disney Plus. And what was really important about that is she loved everything Disney. So this was a really big deal to her. And so we were just going to have a nice night together. And so I went and got the pizza, and we were hanging out downstairs together and watching Disney. And she just said, Kerri, I think I'm feeling a migraine coming on. So we have this term in our family. It says, I'm not long for the world. And it just means you're tired. She's like, I'm not long for the world tonight. And I said, oh yeah, me neither. I just have a few things to do. And we started to chat about what tomorrow would bring and how I needed her to take me to the airport and some of the events that we were to attend. And so we were just chatting about that. And she sat up and she started kind of trying to get her breath. And she kind of made a funny noise, and I kind of giggled at her, like, what are you doing? And she was always exaggerated. And when I say that, she exaggerated about everything. When she wasn't feeling good, everything looked like it took effort. So this had been going on for most of her life. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. But she said, can you go upstairs and get my inhaler, please? And I said, yeah, sure. And so I walked up the stairs, and by the time I came down the stairs, she was legitimately struggling breathing. She was gasping for air, and I had never seen her like that before. I tried to say, like, here's your inhaler. And she kind of looked at me and she just shook her head like, no, like, I don't, like, don't give it to me. So like, I'm starting to recognize that there's more to it. And so I tried to get the inhaler lid off. And I don't know if you've ever been shaking, I'm shaking as I'm trying to get this inhaler lid off to her to put it to her mouth. And I was able to do that and get it to her mouth. And she just shook no, like she couldn't grasp. And she passed out. She fell over on the couch. So I'm sitting here, with now, my sister who was passed out of the couch after I had said, like, what do you want me to do? Yelling at her, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to call 911? And she couldn't respond.
Wow.
And it was just this awkward moment where now I'm trying to find a phone and dial 911 for the first time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I dialed 911 and it rang and rang and rang. And it came forward. It's like, all of our people are busy now. I didn't ever expect that. So I didn't know what to do. So like I hung up and then I tried it again and I got someone on the line and they proceeded to walk me through what I needed to do to perform CPR on her. And she was a very heavy girl. So I was trying to pull her down so that I could actually do CPR while they were responding. And so the lady on the phone was very good, and she walked me through it, and I was able to have it on speakerphone until, the fire and rescue team came and took over. What was really interesting and really cool, and I have a faith journey, so I'd say that it's not circumstance, but divine intervention. And a lady I went to high school with is one of the responders in town, and I met her, and she talked to me, and she said, it's your sister. And I said, yes. And so she was able to stay with me as we went through Candace's medical and physical history and gathered all her medications and, tried to walk through the events of the evening. And she just started to walk me through the journey and said, we'll be heading to the hospital, and really kind of outlined, maybe it's time to call a support person. And we opted not to call my mom at that point because we didn't know what was going on and expected her to go to the hospital. Well, I was already in my pajamas. So of course I went and got changed and called my aunt and sort of let her know and asked her if she could meet me at the hospital. And since I work in healthcare, I kind of knew where we would be going.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything was starting to get arranged. And when I came back downstairs to our main level, the lady said, there are two ways out here tonight, Kerri. One is we're going to the hospital, and the other, and she paused. And I said, I'm kind of aware of the other because my dad passed away very unexpectedly. And I kind of knew the potential path we were taking. It was the first time that I guess I really thought my sister's not going to make it. It was that breath of like, oh my goodness, like I'm sitting upstairs saying, oh, great, I'm not going to get to go on vacation now.
Sure.
That's my thought. Like, gee, Candace, you couldn't have waited. And now I'm contemplating that, my sister might not make it. And very few moments, I believe, passed. And I really wouldn't know the timeline. And the paramedic came up and told me that she was gone.
Wow. And I just want to honor that for you, Kerri, because it takes a while for our brain to even comprehend, what's happening. Because not long before that, she was chatting with you and it just came on so suddenly. So to allow your brain to catch up to even comprehend that you might lose your sister must have been just unfathomable.
Yeah. And I think from the time I called her, and of course, later on, I decided to timestamp. I obviously like a little bit of data or something. And I timestamped the call. And, I think it was just my way of working through the events.
Mm-hmm.
It was less than an hour from the time that I dialed 911 until I was told that she was not going to make it and she was gone. It was that quick. It was like a blink of an eye, just in an instant. And, when I think about those events and like one day later, and she would have been alone. Like 24 hours later, I was on a plane. It's just that moment that I just had never expected to hear.
Right. Well, and that's looking back on reflection, because at the time there must have been just so much going through your mind with your own grief and just to accept that this is really happening. But it's in reflection, looking back, that you can say, just imagine, like I wouldn't have wanted her to go through that on her own.
Yeah. Yeah. So much about that. Yeah. Yeah. There's lots going through my mind. That's for sure.
Would you mind sharing some of that, Kerri? Because I think for those who might go through a traumatic loss like that, where it's so sudden, you knew that she had some health problems off and on, but nothing to that degree. And it took, from my understanding, it took a long time to really get those answers, and we'll get to that point. But I wondered, just to validate that for you, what were some thoughts that were going through your mind as you were trying to just absorb this?
I think the first thing for me was my mom. Like, how do you tell your mom?
Yeah.
She had lost her husband 5 years earlier, like in a marriage that was 39 years old, and they had been together, and she lost him in an instant. And now I have the responsibility of telling her that her daughter is gone.
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah. And I think that's the first place I went. It was about my mom.
Yeah.
I think also, I guess I recognized right away that my life had changed. I went from having a sibling to an only child. I was going from a moment that I have a younger sister, like she was my younger sister, it's not supposed to go that way in your brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just experiencing like all, I would say, lots of our life moments are together because neither of us are married. So like people would invite Kerri and Candace over. Let's go to Kerri and Candace's house. Now it's just Kerri, right? And so as a single person and having kind of a sidekick who knew you and honestly, sometimes who could really argue with you and really get after you in those deep ways, that's lost in an instant. I think that was a second piece that was going on. And then for me, the third thing was this guilt of if I'd only been faster, if I'd only not laughed at her when she was breathing weirdly and making a noise. It's the if I only could have, would that have made the difference?
Which would be quite natural, I think. Most people in that scenario, it's like this survivor guilt of, is there anything I could have done differently?
Yeah. And did I notice anything? She had not been feeling well for a long time. Could I have been more attentive? And she had gone through that journey for so long that in some ways, like I was desensitized to it, right? It's just another headache. It's just another day where she is not feeling well. Sometimes I joke a little bit. Sometimes she reminded me of Eeyore. Today's a day, right? I just didn't know her experience of her illness or what she was carrying. And obviously she didn't either, but we just didn't know. But because it was part of who she was and her personality, I think it felt normal. And I had normalized her illness maybe.
It's a good point in that we don't always know what else is going on for people. And we can't be alarmist at all symptoms that might present. And I could hear, like you said, you become desensitized. But I really want to honor that you were the only one there with her and you responded the best that you could with the information you had at the time.
Yeah, I think having space to know that and some really key people in my life who could speak that into me time and time again. And I have some really close friends who are medical professionals, and they were able to continually, gently walk me through that. And that was really helpful. And they did it in such a caring and kind way.
It speaks to the importance of that support for you in the loss that you had to go through. Kerri, I think maybe this might be a really good place to bridge the gap for the listeners as to what it ended up being that caused her death and how long it took to get that answer.
Yeah, they performed an autopsy because she was under some pretty significant medical care and actually she was under an experimental medication. So they wanted to confirm that. And so it took quite a while to get the autopsy. I'd say 3, maybe 4 months. We had no idea. And what we found out is that my sister died of a heart attack. And what was profound for me, I think, and my mom is that she had pretty severe blockages in her left artery and her right artery to the tune of 80% on her left in some places, what they call luminal narrowing, and 75 in other areas. In fact, something else was going on because when they did the autopsy, her liver fell apart in their hands and they needed to do some microscopic pieces. So not really sure if there was something else going on, but for a 37-year-old to have that much luminal and narrowing isn't typical. And there weren't necessarily the typical signs that she had, like a heart condition. Like she was definitely overweight and she definitely showed, signs of that, but she was also not like pre-diabetic. And she was regularly heading to the physician's office. So there was not anything detected. So I think we also had a physician colleague of mine that actually walked my mom and I through and helped explain it to us in a way that we could understand, which was also extremely helpful. And I am thankful we had some answers, but it does speak to the fact that everyone's body is different and the signs aren't always there. We don't know our time, really. We don't know our tomorrows. And that was certainly true for her.
Well said. You certainly wouldn't expect heart problems for someone of her age. And the other indications of her health deterioration, like her liver. But also how hard it is for families to be in the dark for that long. in loss because we naturally want to understand how could this have happened when there's a sudden death like that. If it's a car accident, if it's an illness, then we can get our heads around an explanation for it. But you didn't get that answer for quite a long time. What was that like for you and your mom?
I think I'll drive it back like our faith dialogue. When my dad passed away, my mom felt like she was given a verse in the Bible in Ecclesiastes where it says there's a time to be born and a time to die. And my mom just holds true to a lot of those principles and probably follows suit just like she does. And I think we just lean on the fact that it was her time. And while we might not want it to be or appreciate that, there may not actually be a reason, but that we just can rest in the fact that it was her time and appreciate the gift that she gave us for 37 years.
What a beautiful way to look at it. Would it be fair? I just want to honor that faith has become a real source of strength for you and has continued to be so.
Yeah, I would say it's probably been foundational for us, especially as we've been journeying. And, you know, our faith community and the friends and family that are part of it, they more than stepped up. They surrounded us. And we're very grateful. I mean, I say this a thousand times over for the community of our own friends and family that like just showed up when we didn't know what we needed.
Mm-hmm. And it's believing in something greater than ourselves, because in the moment it can feel like I want to blame somebody when we're in their deepest, darkest place of grief. We want an understanding. We want an explanation. We want to wrap it up in a nice, neat box. But like you're saying, sometimes it's our time, and there may not have been much that we could have done or seen ahead of time to prevent it. So I hear a place of acceptance that you've also landed in.
Yeah. And if I could just even go back on that point to what you were saying, for me, it's like, if I really believe this stuff, if you want to call it, or this principle of faith, then I have to believe it when things are joyful. And I also have to believe it when they're not, when I'm in a valley, when I don't know what makes sense. If I really believe that there's hope for tomorrow and I really believe in that, then I have to live like it in the midst of my uncertainty, in the midst of my anger, when I'm distraught, because otherwise then why am I pursuing a faith journey? Because it actually doesn't matter then if I'm not actually utilizing it and trying to use it from an application perspective.
Mm-hmm. I can hear the strength that has been for you and your family and those around you who have the same faith, because then you know you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I can hear the value in that, because it's when we feel alone that we have a lot of doubt. But the value of bringing community around us, having a belief in something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's what led probably me to where acceptance is. You know, while I don't appreciate the acceptance days, and I deeply miss my sister, I can accept it because I know that she still lived fully while she was here on earth. And I think that's all we can ask for. And with intention, we kind of used that quote from Wonder, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. That was sort of the words that just kept coming up to us when we think about Candace and how she lived and lived her life.
Yeah, it's a great way to remember her. Kerri, in the days after your sister has passed, I want to really circle back for a moment to that place of describing the two of you in what I heard as a team, and to be two single women in a family as siblings. I can hear just how much the two of you brought in value to one another, the good, the bad, and the ugly that sisters can bring, the joy, the connection, the support, calling each other out on things that you may not get in a true friendship in the same way as a sister could do. And I can hear the loss that has brought for you in being a single woman and really missing all of that.
Yeah, it's weird. It's these moments, it's just these small moments where you want to share it with somebody, but you can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you feel just that slight bit of emptiness. because that's the person that you think, oh man, they would get so excited about this. And it's not always like the big moments in life, right? Sometimes it's the little things, or it's the goofy things that you do together. No one else would do this, but yeah, she'd be up for it, right? Or I think that becomes the place of how do you figure out your space so you don't lose yourself as well in that process, that you don't let that part of you die, because it's still who you are. For me, interestingly enough, my sister was a very big encourager, and she kind of did it in a way that is unorthodox. It was more like a lecture in a speech, like, how dare you? How dare you think that you're not good enough? Or how dare you think you can't do this? So if I was ever not feeling like myself or confident, she was the one who actually pushed me into confidence, if you can believe it or not. And she gave it in a speech, and I almost felt like it was a tongue lashing. But the way she did it, it was still about encouragement. So you have to ask others to help bring that about in your life. And you have to find different people who can fill that void, and not in the same way, but in a different way.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's about now. Nobody's going to fill her shoes in the same way. That's not the goal. But to say, how can I find some of that in the people I bring around me, to look out and to not try to do it in isolation, but to really allow others to help you through that.
Yeah. And when you're not good at that, it's a very different place to be in. And I'm not sure if I'm doing it well yet, but I would say I've opened the door differently than I have ever before. I've always been known, I would say, if people would describe me as some, like a rock for a lot of people, a source of strength, a calming influence, a peacekeeper, those kinds of places in people's lives. And now I've needed it from people, and often will think I'm the burden. And so how do I remove that from my mindset to say, no, like, I'm offering them the opportunity to be part of my team, because my team is different now.
Yeah. Okay. I love that reminder. I can hear the things you're learning about yourself since Candace has passed. What else have you been learning on this grief journey?
This is a new one for me, and it's okay to step back and step out. I have always thought being busy is a good thing, because then it just keeps going. And I think the one thing I learned is, after Candace passed away, I was able to be busy a little bit. And what I would tell others is take time, but I wouldn't necessarily do that myself. And I wasn't modeling the right behavior. And so I was off for 6 weeks after Candace died. I didn't go to work. I didn't look at anything. And I needed that, and I didn't realize that, but I still tried to keep busy, and I would come home late. And when COVID hit, you don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
And so I got the privilege, I guess, of being in the house where my sister died, and could see that very spot every day. And you need to sometimes step back and not be doing anything in order to be still. And I'm learning a little bit about what it means to be still for Kerri, which is different than others. Like, I can't go from who I was and always going to stopping, because that doesn't work either. But it's this pace which is clawing back for me, and learning what that stillness looks like, or what that journey is in terms of slowing down, and trying to model that for not only myself, but for others. And that's part of being kind. And that statement, and like, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. And I think I'm kind to others, but not always kind to myself. I think I'm leaning into it. I wouldn't say I'm embracing it, but I'm leaning into it.
And what is that bringing you, just by slowing down, not being so distracted and busy all the time?
A bit of discovery, I think, in terms of what are the things I love, and maybe a chance to do some things I haven't done for a while, or just to recover. And that's okay too. And so I think some of it was forced, and that's not always a bad thing. I think if we weren't forced, I'm not sure that I would have done that. And I'm not sure that would have helped my healing journey. And I would say it's a journey. I'm still there are days I'm still working through that, and it feels like a giant wave has crashed down on me and I've fallen back down. What I do think is I'm starting to discover the things I love and maybe the things I don't love so much either.
Good point. Because sometimes we're letting go of things as we're learning about ourselves, and sometimes we're adding things in. And I can hear just in the quietness that you're learning a lot about yourself.
Yeah, like an example would be when my dad passed away, him and I used to write music together. And it was a really amazing thing. And when he passed away, like I stopped writing. I didn't stop playing music, I just stopped writing. After Candace died, I picked up my guitar and started writing again. And it was understanding that the reason I stopped. And so the one reason I stopped was the grief of my father. The reason I started was the grief of my sister. So you can see how it can get knit back together, right?
I like that image. That's a great point, because that's two very significant losses in 5 years, two significant people in your family. And I can only imagine the wake that your family has been in with losing Candace as well.
Yeah, in 5 years, we've lost 5 people. So I lost my grandfather, my grandmother, and uncle, my dad, and my sister.
Right.
In a span of 5 years. So it feels like we were in a season of darkness and in a season of grief, or some people would call it winter. So that has been quite a journey. It just feels like, you're working through one and the next wave comes crashing down, right? And
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So I think I'd be happy for spring to come again. But even in winter, you can find some sparkles and some sunshine, right?
Yeah. Well, I love the imagery that comes with that, because even in the darkness of the heaviness of loss, it's about looking. It's looking for some of the gifts that you might find along the way. And like you're saying, even in Candace's passing, rediscovering your writing and music again.
Yeah. And our family is about memory making. I just feel like we've started to really talk about memories, my mom and I, and like been intentional, especially since my dad passed away over the 5 years. And I'm not saying we didn't do it before, but there's an intentionality that we did, and we went on vacations together and did these things. And I am not naive to think that there's lots of people who don't have a relationship like I had with my sister, a roommate, a best friend, a sister. So I treasure that gift and that relationship I had. So I have these beautiful imagery memories that I get to relive and laugh about and experience. And that is one thing that I want to continue to embrace, is memory making with the people in my life that matter.
It's something you have control over right now, whether it's creating new memories with the people around you today, or those memories that you have of Candace and the times you've spent together. Nobody can take those memories away from you.
Yeah, they can't. And that's the wonderful thing. And we have some pretty cool videos of last trip we went on together in Hawaii, and they're fun. Like, they're just a lot of fun. And, you might go look back at them and shed a few tears. There's a whole lot of laughter too.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your perspective, Kerri, in reflecting today, because we are capturing you somewhere along the way in your journey of healing. It's a process. It's not a done deal. It'll be ongoing. But we're looking at it a year and a half after her passing, where you've been through the darkest of winters in recent years, but knowing that you're still finding some light along the way, whether in your friendships, in your time with your mom, creating memories. I think there's lots of wisdom there.
Yeah. And I think about a kind of future memory piece. And the one thing that my sister wanted to do, and it kind of came to me about midway last year, is, well, she really wanted us to get a puppy together. Like, that was kind of her big thing. And I wasn't exactly so sure, because I was traveling a lot and she wasn't feeling good. And I was thinking that I was going to be funding financially this little puppy. But I decided that that was something that I should do as a kind of a healing, but as an honoring to that future life that she had anticipated us doing together. And so, just after Christmas, I got a puppy, and I named her after my sister's favorite Disney princess. And just as a way to honor her, and in a weird way, but in a way that was about, this is what she wanted to do. And it was audible and I knew it in a way that was part of future and part of past.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm thinking about the importance of rituals, the importance of finding a way to have something that you can remember Candace by as well, aside from all those amazing memories, to have it move forward and have a future piece that you know you can honor her with. And so it's Belle, right?
It's Belle, yeah.
Yeah. And tell me what Belle has brought you in the last few months since you got her.
Again, that word hope comes to mind. It's kind of a funny thing. Like, it's like I have a new little partner, like a crime, and somebody to focus on. And puppies and animals do a lot for making you feel special. Like, she's excited when I'm home and maybe a little too excited. But, she's happy to see me. She brings excitement and joy. And yeah, it just creates this bond, and it doesn't feel so absent at times, right? So yeah, Belle's brought a lot of joy in my life, and probably my family would say I'm a little bit of a crazy dog mom, and I do maybe more than I should with her because yeah, she is a source of my conversation a lot right now. And
but I can hear the excitement in that. That's why you're talking about her, because it's bringing some joy in your life.
Yeah, it's this great. Yeah, it's just this really great thing, and somebody I can share a journey with and continue to be together, right? It just creates, again, a togetherness for sure. And a love. Yeah. Yeah.
So is it now Kerri and Belle are coming over, or we're going over to Kerri and Belle's house?
I think it's starting to that. Again, maybe my friends and family aren't appreciative when I say, can Belle come too? But usually that's like, is it okay if Belle comes over? So yeah, it might be coming, Kerri and Belle. Join the party here. So.
Yeah, I love that. So is there anything else in your resilience practice, Kerri, that you would like our listeners to hear from your journey, what you've been learning about yourself? Is there anything we haven't touched on that you think would be good to share?
I guess I think it's the value of community and surrounding yourself with community and not being afraid to accept help. Maybe if you're not the person who likes to accept help, I'm not that person, but sometimes it's that person who says, hey, what are you doing for supper? Are you coming over? That gentle nudge of, yes, I'll come over. And it might start reluctantly, because like, as a person who doesn't want to burden others, it starts reluctantly as I'm burdening you, to there's a reason why you need it. So if people are reaching out to you, accept their space of care and concern where it makes sense. And then if you do need somebody, reaching out and asking for help. Sometimes I've done this before. I don't know how to help. I want to. I just don't know what you need. And I don't want to do the wrong thing. So sometimes it's just saying, I need this. Can you help me with this? And I've done that a couple of times, and it's gotten easier. It's still not comfortable, but it's gotten easier. I think there's value in community and people in general that really want to help.
Yeah.
And they really want to care for you.
So maybe seeing it as a practice of allowing people to help, even if you're not really good at it yet. And I think about the value of being in community, that you're sharing stories, those people that remember Candace and can talk about her with you. It helps all of you heal, and not just you, but also them, to be able to be in your company with somebody who also knows her, remembers her, to share those stories. There's a lot of healing that comes with that, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think if you're the person going through something, it eases it when you start talking about the person, if that's something that you want to do. I mean, as a person who, I don't want her to lose her memory. So I want, even if it sheds a tear, I want somebody to talk about her. Others, that's not what they need. And so you'd be better, I guess, for me in resilience practice, I'm learning that I need to share with somebody where I'm at or what I need, so that there's not a poor assumption. So then I won't get hurt either in the process. So if it bothers me too much for me to talk about my sister, then I need to share that with others, because people want to do the right thing. And sometimes they just don't know what it is. So it's my responsibility as the person to help people know what can and cannot be done. And I think that's a part of healing too.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can find a way to say it. So oftentimes what I'll start talking about her, and then I feel like it might open the door for someone to say that that's okay.
Yeah, love that. And you're setting the pace and the tone where sometimes people are afraid to bring her up. But if you bring her up, then they'll know it's okay for us to talk about her. Yeah. So, Kerri, it's been a vulnerable journey for you. And I can hear with Belle coming into your life, some healing is happening. It's not to say that it'll ever feel okay 100% because you're always going to miss Candace. But I really respect that you would be willing to be vulnerable for us, for this podcast, to share your journey with the listeners, and the hope that perhaps others will hear it and find encouragement from your story.
Yeah, if it can just help somebody kind of walk their journey and just a little bit more, just to know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would want.
Beautiful. Well, together we're going to grow resilience in our village of people listening in. And it's a hard one, and I appreciate your being willing to share that. But I can also hear the hope in your story.
Good. I hope so. Because that's the thing. The days aren't over. There might be dark ones, but there's sunshine around the corner, and the sun always comes out.
Yeah, that's a beautiful message. Spring comes.
Yeah, spring comes. It's not always has to be winter. A new life and, a new adventures await. And it doesn't mean that you don't remember winter. It just means that spring comes.
Yeah. What a great note to park this on today, Kerri. And again, I thank you for just being willing to sit with us in conversation. Always a pleasure chatting with you anyway. But thank you for being part of this podcast journey from the beginning and for participating in it as well as a guest.
Well, thank you, Cindy. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. You are a bright spot in my day. And I'm so grateful that you decided to be courageous and do the podcast, because I won't say I'm your number one listener, because I think you might have some number one listeners, but I'm right up there. I haven't stopped listening since day one. So
wow. It's an honor to have you be a big, big part of this. So thank you, my friend. It's truly a pleasure.
Well, thank you.
It's not easy to talk about grief for many of us, or to share our stories in such a public way. I truly admire Kerri's courage and vulnerability, knowing that she does so here in this podcast in service to helping others. To recap, here are some of Kerri's insights for someone who has experienced loss. Number 1, take time. Don't just busy yourself with doing, but allow yourself an opportunity to process and grieve your loss. Number 2, be still. Take time to reflect and to sit in the feelings. Number 3, slow down. 4, to be kind, particularly to yourself. 5, see this time as a healing journey. Number 6, make memories. Take time today and each day to create memories with your loved ones, but also to remember those special memories of times together with those who have passed. Number 7, find a way to honor the loss of a loved one, whether it's through symbol, or maybe it's visiting a place, or as in Kerri's case, to get a dog that represents something that her sister has always hoped for. Number 8, allow your community to be part of your healing. Number 9, leaning into the experience of grief is different than embracing the experience, even if you need to lean in a little at a time. I personally value the way that Kerri spoke of how the different losses have played a role in her healing. When her dad passed, she had stopped writing music. And when Candace passed, it inspired her to start writing again. The reason she stopped became the reason she started again, knitting it back together. I love that. A rich way of thinking about this season in her life. I would like to dedicate this episode to Kerri's sister Candace and to their family as they continue to celebrate a life remembered well. Here are a couple of reflection questions for today. First of all, what memories could you be making with your loved ones? Secondly, do you sometimes have a feeling you should have shared a thought or expressed appreciation to someone you care about or that's close to you? I invite you to make that call today. Write a letter or an email. Just let them know what you've been wanting to share. As Kerri suggested, we don't know about our tomorrows, so tell your friends and family just how much you love and appreciate them every day. I have not met anyone yet who is regretting doing just that. Finally, I just want to remind everyone that we will be taking the first 2 weeks of August off to give our team a break. We will be back with more episodes at the end of August so that we can continue growing our village of resilient humans. Thank you for listening to this episode of A Resilience Project. We would not be doing this podcast without you. If you or someone you know has an inspirational story or is helping to build resilience in their community, please email me at cindy@aresilienceproject.com. In fact, email me either way. I would love to hear from you. My hope is to feature an episode periodically on your letters of resilience. I'm very interested in hearing your story of how you have tackled hard things and what worked for you. With your permission, I hope to share some of these stories along the way with our listeners. Also, check out my website, aresilienceproject.com, to learn more about our amazing guests. Your presence here is important because together we are cultivating a village of resilient individuals. You are creating a space for their stories to be shared and a sacred space for learning to occur. I also have a favor. I would love for you to go to your preferred podcast platform, rate and review the podcast so that we will know how we're doing. I also would like to express my gratitude to the amazing team of volunteers that have jumped on board to support this project. You will find each of those beautiful people on my website on the team page. As you go about this week, I invite you to think about one way that you can continue to grow your resilient muscle. What is one thing you can start with today? See you next week.
Ever find yourself waiting endlessly at a big box pharmacy, feeling like just another number? At Tablet Pharmacy, they provide the personalized service you deserve. They offer free delivery and blister packaging options to make managing your medications easier than ever. Check their competitive prices online at tabletpharmacy.ca